Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, concerns that falling water levels in Lake Powell could threaten hydroelectric power generation. Also tonight, an encouraging new treatment for inflammatory bowel disease. And the Phoenix Children's Hospital Arrowhead campus in Glendale is expanding. Those stories and more next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your public television station.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. Longtime political activist Alfredo Gutierrez has died. He died of esophageal cancer. He was 79. Gutierrez was a prominent advocate for civil rights and access to education. His activism started in earnest while a student at ASU, where he was expelled after leading student protests during the Chicano rights movement of the late 1960s. Gutierrez went on to co-found Chicanos por la Causa and later served for 14 years in the state legislature. Activist, organizer Alfredo Gutierrez, dead at 79. And of note, Lydia Guzman from Chicanos por la Causa will join us tomorrow for more on the life and legacy of Alfredo Gutierrez. The Trump administration today announced plans to revoke the EPA's ability to make rules about climate pollution. Now, the administrator of the EPA said that the agency plans to revoke a 2009 declaration that concluded that planet warming and greenhouse gases pose a threat to public health. That declaration has been used to set limits on emissions from cars and power plants and other industrial polluters. Without the declaration, the EPA would have no authority to regulate emissions under the Clean Air Act. President Trump today reaffirmed a new deadline for Russian President Vladimir Putin to agree to a ceasefire in Ukraine.
10 days from today. And then, we're going to put on tariffs and stuff, and I don't know if it's going to affect Russia because he wants to obviously probably keep the war going.
The president speaking there aboard Air Force One. The U.S. and Ukraine are pushing for an immediate ceasefire to help negotiate a lasting peace deal. And an economic note, Procter & Gamble today said that it will raise prices in part because of tariffs. That means roughly a quarter of P&G's items, including bathroom and laundry products, are headed for a price increase. The company said that it will try to offset some of the financial hits, but consumers will have to pick up some of the cost. There are increasing concerns that by the end of next year, water levels at Lake Powell will drop too low for hydroelectric power generation. December of 2026 is also the deadline for a new Colorado River Water Compact. For more on all this, we welcome Sarah Porter, Director of the Kyle Center for Water Policy at ASU's Morrison Institute. Sarah, good to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's talk about this. This is a pretty sobering forecast here for Lake Powell.
Yeah, it certainly is. We had a bad winter in terms of flows into the Colorado River, and so the reservoir didn't accrue more water in storage, at least sufficient to keep us, to stave off these risks that we're now facing.
Okay, so go ahead, please.
Well, things are starting to look worse. And in the latest projections that the United States Bureau of Reclamation provides, they show that there's a let's just say, more chance than we would like that the water levels could get so low that the Glen Canyon Dam wouldn't produce hydropower.
And what the impact of that dam not producing hydroelectric power? What would that mean?
It's a significant generator of hydroelectric power. So let's just start with the fact that it's power that predominantly tribes and rural communities directly rely on. So it creates hardship for those power users. They have to figure out another way to meet their power demands. And another consideration is that hydropower is considered a clean energy. It doesn't produce carbon emissions. And so it removes a form of non-carbon producing energy from the portfolios of energy providers. So it's got kind of a double whammy in that respect.
So we're looking at Lake Powell, and the forecast for the end of next year is not good at all. Where is Lake Powell right now? Where is Lake Mead? What are the water levels, and what does it look like?
They're both really low. They have these two big reservoirs have not recovered. And so we are facing concerns about, if we have another not so good winter, which is a very reasonable thing to expect, we could be in worse shape. And that's really the hydrologic context that we're facing right now. Even an average winter wouldn't put us in a good place. And that's just to put us in, a less risky place than we are now.
We're talking Lake Powell. Correct me if I'm wrong, isn't there some sort of short-term deal or some sort of idea in place, a short-term plan for Lake Mead that's helping that particular? First of all, is that true? And secondly, what does it mean?
Well, there've been a series of kind of interim steps that different groups of the basin states have taken to keep the lake levels at both Lake Mead and Lake Powell from going down to dangerously low levels. So in particular, in 2019 and thereafter, some subsequent agreements, the lower basin states have figured out ways of leaving water in Lake Mead. Lake Powell is upstream of Lake Mead with the Grand Canyon running in between. So water flows into Lake Mead from Lake Powell, and then water flowing out of Lake Mead goes to people in California, Arizona, Southern Nevada, and Mexico. So particularly Arizona, but to some extent Nevada and Mexico have figured out ways over the last few years to conserve very significant amounts of water in Lake Mead, but it's not enough. The steps that we've taken are not enough.
It's not enough, and again, if Lake Powell upstream is not holding up its end of the bargain here, I mean, that affects the whole kit and caboodle.
That's right. There are reservoirs upstream, again, from which water could be hypothetically released to help shore up Lake Powell, but then you've just moved your problem upstream. So, the reality that we're facing is simply insufficient water to meet the expectations of the water users in the system.
And that's the scenario that we're seeing, and that's the forecast that we're hearing for December of next year. You got to get a compact going. You got to get all these states together with some sort of plan to allocate and administer Colorado River water. How do those two things mix and mingle here? Because that's quite an equation.
So one word, and that is uncertainty. We are in a very dicey I would say we're at the 11th and a half hour in terms of an agreement among the 7 states. They've been struggling truly for years to come to an agreement, which really has to be about who takes cuts in water, because that is fundamentally the problem that we're facing as a 7-state, 2-nation, 29-tribe, group of water users. In June, the director of water resources in Arizona, Tom Bushatsky, shared at a public meeting in Arizona that Arizona has proposed a new way of operating the system that's really quite a different way. And I think a lot of us felt hopeful that this new approach, which would be based on average flows in the Colorado River, that's a smart approach. Let's base water allocations on the amount that's actually in the river. But there are so many points of disagreement, and what we're hearing is that they're still very far apart in agreement. So that's uncertainty. We don't have the outlines of an agreement. We don't know whether they'll be able to come to an agreement. So
it sounds like a sliding scale is what Arizona was proposing.
Yeah, the proposal was to take the 3-year estimated average flow at Lee Ferry, and it would have to be, since the water's impounded in Lake Powell upstream, it would have to be kind of this hydrologic estimation, and then figure out a percentage that all the 7 states would agree on that could be allocated to the lower basin states. And then there would be a lot of other things to work out, like how much of that percentage goes to each of the lower basin users, that kind of thing. But it seemed promising, and now it's not so clear if that's going to wind up being where we wind up.
Sarah, it seems relatively dire here. I mean, 11th hour, past the 11th hour, we all feel the weather. We know what's going on out there. We're just not getting the rain. We're just not getting the snow. Got to have it by the end of next year. Is the fact that it's so dire, will that push people to get this compact done maybe in a different way than they would have if the reservoirs were more full?
Oh, I should think so. It's easier to come to an agreement when you have a lot of water to agree on, to share. But it clearly, everybody at the table understands that they face enormous risks if they don't come to an agreement. And I'll add that the Secretary of Interior has made it clear that he is prepared to take unilateral action in the absence of an agreement. And that's also that element of uncertainty that how does any state know what the secretary would do?
And that was going to be my question, Sarah.
Yeah.
I mean, what would they do? What would that mean for Arizona? Do we even have any idea?
We don't know. We really don't know. And so, but that's the case for every single state. I think in some, I would think that making sure that some water gets to the cities of Phoenix and Tucson, and the surrounding, the cities in central Arizona that rely on Colorado River water would likely be a priority, but there's no guarantee of that. But at the same time, this great risk of this great uncertainty that we're facing means that the cities in central Arizona have been taking the steps and getting prepared for what they have to do to meet demand if the shortages are very deep. They're not the only ones taking steps. The states, the negotiators, everybody is taking steps. But it's important to recognize that cities have made big investments in making sure that if there are very severe cuts, they have water supplies that they can deliver where they're needed.
All right, Sarah Porter, Kyle Center for Water Policy at ASU's Morrison Institute. Important information. It's good to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The Maya built great cities
terraces, road systems. It's a perfect planned city.
and then abandoned them. Can new discoveries reveal why?
And then, bam, we have these huge deposits.
It is completely unique. There's nothing like it.
There's a history behind those artifacts, a culture we want to know better. The Maya are still here.
Ancient Maya Metropolis on Nova.
Wednesday night at 9 on Arizona PBS.
I'm Chef Mark Tarbell. Welcome to Check Please Arizona, the show where Arizona residents recommend their favorite restaurants. In this episode, we're heading to the Cool Pines of Flagstaff.
Is quintessential American comfort food in a jar, tucked back in this old strip mall, and we've passed by it 1,000 times, but it should be on your to-do list to look for.
So, Evan, did you have any drinks?
One of my favorites in a long time.
Thursday night at 7 on Arizona PBS. We want to hear from you. Submit your questions, comments, and concerns via email at arizonahorizon@asu.edu.
There's encouraging news regarding the treatment of inflammatory bowel disease, which includes a number of conditions affecting the digestive tract. And joining us now is Dr. William Fabian. He's a gastroenterologist at Mayo Clinic, Arizona. Good to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. Good to be here.
Let's define terms. Inflammatory bowel disease. That's more than one. Is that like more than one disease?
Right. It's probably many diseases depending upon the genetics, but right now I think most people would describe it as a basket of two diseases. One would be Crohn's disease and the other is ulcerative colitis, defined almost by their behavior and where they're expressed in the bowel. So Crohn's disease can involve anywhere from the mouth to the anus, whereas ulcerative colitis by definition only involves the colon.
Okay, so these are things that can't be cured, or what?
Right. So the way we tell patients now and the way I talk to my families are that as of today, in order for us to control the disease, not just the symptoms, but actually all of the lesions that you could see on endoscopy, most patients require therapies for an extended period of time. So in that way, it's incurable. However, most patients will live a long, healthy lifetime with the disease, more like blood pressure problems than it would be.
How is it diagnosed?
So diagnosed many times, patients have the right symptoms, patients may have the right blood work, they'll come see either their family physician or maybe get referred to a gastroenterologist. Most diagnoses are made by two things. One would be endoscopy, so passing a lighted tube either through the mouth or through the bottom to take a look at the entirety of the GI tract. And there we can see the lesions through the scope and also take a look at it on biopsy. That, and there's also very suggestive x-ray findings.
Yeah, okay. So the treatment for this is, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't this something where you'd have to kind of go in and get some sort of infusion every few weeks or something like that?
Right. A lot of the modern therapies are delivered by vein. Those would be the so-called biologics. But we've known about this disorder for really almost 80 years, and treatments have gone anywhere from classically oral corticosteroids, which are the oldest therapies, through a variety of other pill-based therapies, and now much more recently, I would say ever since really 98 until now, we talk about this family of medications called biologic therapies. So-called biologic because they require a living platform in order to produce them.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you about, because I was reading about this thing called the living pharmacy within the body. Good. What is that?
Right. So this actually, this was the concept for this came out of one of our collaborators in Mayo Rochester, who were successful in getting an award called an ARPA-H grant, called ARPA-Ease.
Yes.
And the living pharmacy is this concept that we can encapsulate certain cells, little bioreactors. We can encapsulate cells in a membrane such that the body doesn't attack it, place it into a patient, and those cells will produce a biologic therapeutic consistently over time until you have it exchanged. So the living pharmacy would be implanting the cells that make, in this case, it's called an antibody, that's a therapy, and it would make that therapy every minute of every day of the month, every month of the year, until it's either removed or we exchange them.
So that's like a 24/7 infusion then?
Correct. Still very early in the conceptual phases, but it was a grant that was awarded.
And it just generates antibodies to, in this case, fight inflammatory disease?
Correct. This one in particular would bind another protein called a cytokine, which are sort of like text messages for the immune system. They coordinate the immune response.
Okay.
And this one in particular is directed against TNF.
And what is that?
Tumor necrosis factor.
Okay.
It's one of the oldest biologic therapies is targeting TNF, and that's why we feel like that's a good target to go after.
So someone who needs the treatment, instead of going every couple of weeks or going every month or whatever the case may be,
Correct.
this would go in the arm and stay there for how long?
Well, I mean, months, years.
Really?
Right. Now we're still in the early phases of discovery science.
How early? How early we're talking here?
So the cells exist. We've gotten the funding. I think it's been contracted within the last year, and the teams are at work both across the Rochester campus as well as the Arizona campus. But the contracts are usually for 4 years. So if we don't make measurable progress, really in 2 to 4 years, so that's the time scale.
And that award was from Health and Human Services, correct?
It's the ARPA-H, right, from Health and Human Services.
Are you sure this thing's going to be still there when you wake up tomorrow morning?
The contract still exists, as far as we know.
You never really know about this thing. So when it comes to inflammatory bowel disease and these sorts of Crohn's disease especially, but ulcerative colitis, are you encouraged that this kind of thing and what you've talked about before, are these making a difference in people's lives?
For sure. I mean, I think that the what we would call natural history experiments that have been done over a period of decades would demonstrate that there's fewer patients having surgery. There's much better quality of life in our populations of patients that have these diseases. So I do think we're making a difference. I think really the biggest differences are going to be made when we really understand the mechanisms of every individual patient that has the disease.
And last question regarding this cell factory, did you put it in the arm and you just let it go and do its thing?
Sure.
Can that be used for other conditions?
Absolutely. I mean, any disease that responds to a blocking antibody or a monoclonal antibody therapy or other types of biologic therapeutics that are produced on a living platform such as a cellular platform, you could imagine something like this being useful.
Cancers?
Probably, yes. I mean, a lot of our, well, absolutely. So some antibody therapies that are targeting the so-called checkpoint inhibitor therapies, for example, are all monoclonal antibodies. So theoretically, that could go onto this platform.
Wow. So it's pretty encouraging. This is pretty good stuff out.
I think the concept is really cool.
Yeah.
I think the concept of having a living platform that's encapsulated from the immune response that can treat a patient consistently over time is a super cool concept.
So we'll see where the clinical trials go.
We'll see where it goes.
All right, doctor. Good to have you here.
Thank you very much.
I'm Jeff Bennett. Tonight on the NewsHour, a stark warning that a famine is now playing out in Gaza. That's at 6 on Arizona PBS.
Phoenix Children's Hospital is expanding its Arrowhead campus in Glendale. The expansion comes just a year after the hospital first opened its doors. Noah White is the manager of nursing services at the Phoenix Children's Hospital Arrowhead campus, and he joins us now. Good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Did I get that time frame? It opened last year, and then when did the expansion happen? Earlier this year, or when?
Yeah, a little bit earlier this year. So, like you said, we opened August 7th of 2024, and then this year, March 12th, we expanded the inpatient unit. So we started with 24 beds, and then in March we added another 24 beds for a total of 48 inpatient beds.
Why was the expansion needed?
We want to bring care to the people of Glendale, and for all of Phoenix Children's. You know, we want to operate as a system, and so our biggest goal is really to bring care to where families need it, where kids need it. And so knowing that, looking at our population, we know the Glendale area can use the great services of Phoenix Children's, and we just wanted to expand that and be able to provide comprehensive care.
The expansion will include what? I mean, making room for what?
Ultimately, more inpatient beds. So if your child needs extra care, they come to our hospital, they come through the ED, and they need to be admitted. They now have, there's 24 more additional rooms. The great thing about Arrowhead is that our rooms, we can take very kind of easy, or I don't necessarily know if easy is the right term, but low-level care, even to high acuity care, we can take that at Arrowhead. Yeah.
And that's helped by the expansion, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Like emergency rooms and treatment rooms, these things as well?
Those were part of the initial build-out. So on August 7th, we opened with 3 floors. That was our emergency department on our first floor. Our second floor has our surgical area. So we have a pre-op area, obviously the OR, or the operating rooms, and then a recovery area. And then the third floor is my unit, which is the inpatient unit, again with 48 beds that we can provide kind of comprehensive care to these kids.
And I would imagine, you know, increase in labs, increase in imaging, just kind of an increase in everything, right?
Yeah. With expanding, it means, like you said, more of everything.
Yeah.
And so we can do more surgeries, we can do more studies.
So the expansion has happened. We're looking at all the good stuff here. Is there more expansion on the way?
That's a great question. I think in general, as I feel like we've seen over the past few years in Phoenix, Phoenix Children's is expanding.
Yeah.
We have an ED, or an emergency department, in the Southwest Valley, Avondale. Don't quote me on how many beds we have.
Sure.
But we've expanded there. You know, I think we're looking towards the East Valley. Obviously, we've expanded with Arrowhead, and even at Arrowhead, we've expanded at Arrowhead. So we're growing, and our biggest goal is really to bring care to families, to bring care into communities.
Yeah, I think there was an acute care facility maybe under construction in the East Valley, or close to it, or something along those lines.
Yeah, in the East Valley, there's a facility that I think is going to look a lot like Arrowhead.
Yeah.
Arrowhead, we like to refer to it as a community hospital, because that's what it is. And so multiple levels of care.
Does that differ from Phoenix Children's Hospital?
Yeah, we're still Phoenix Children's. We're still our Thomas campus.
Right.
But Thomas is a level 1 trauma center with very high level care, the only in the Valley. And so we still offer that great kind of Phoenix Children's healthcare, but at a community level. And again, our goal is really to expand and provide services all across the Valley.
When it comes to pediatric services and pediatric care, what's the most needed right now?
That is a great question. I think ultimately access to care. I think with recency, with both COVID and kind of current things going around in the world, mental health is a big thing. And so those are definitely forefronts for what's needed for pediatric care right now.
Even the kids.
Even the kids,
need
yeah,
that kind of
sadly,
stuff,
even the kids.
Yeah, and the challenge I would imagine as well for Phoenix Children's is, and we're seeing it out there in Glendale, meeting the growing population.
Yes, yeah.
It's just huge.
And I think that was the intentionality behind Arrowhead. Phoenix Children's really looked and assessed communities, and Glendale is a booming community that's currently and rapidly growing. And so that was one of the reasons we wanted to support those families out there. We wanted to bring that care. I'm a dad. I have 3 kids, 1 on the way, and so it's nice knowing that Arrowhead's kind of next door for me.
Yeah, I would imagine. Is the Phoenix Children's, the complex, the whole 9 yards here, is that a model for other areas and other hospitals in other parts of the country? Do you know enough about that?
I think you're asking about something above my pay grade.
Okay.
No, I think a systems approach is pretty typical in that, you know, as a Phoenix Children's fanboy, I would say it's a good model because you have that, you know, notable freestanding hospital and then kind of smaller hospitals that can provide, again, that same great care in people's backyards right where they need it.
Yeah, yeah, okay. And where exactly is this located?
Yeah, we're in Glendale, Arrowhead, technically off of North 67th Avenue.
67th Avenue and what is it?
I think, let's see, like Union Hills.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Bell, Union Hills,
Union
that
Hills,
whole
yeah.
area up there?
Yeah.
All right. Well, very good. Congratulations on
Thank
this.
you.
And you sound excited to work there, and you should
That's
be. You're
great.
probably
Thank
doing
you.
great work, and we certainly appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And that is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.